Okay, so pressure racking a beer. Why would a person want to do this? Firstly, what this is going to do is going to create a closed system between my fermentation vessel and the keg into which it's going. The way I used to do this was just with an auto siphon, racking cane into the keg with the lid off, and then just like a little star sand foil over the top, and it would just hope that no bacteria would get in there for infection. I was hoping just that there wouldn't be too much oxygen in there to possibly oxygenate the beer. But what this does is this completely eliminates any of those possible concerns. Closed system, you're not going to get bacteria in there, anything that can infect your beer. As long as everything's been star sanded or sanitized, you're good to go. You're not going to get oxygen pickup of any kind because, well, there's no oxygen being entered into this equation anywhere. So that's why I like this. Just kind of helps create beer stability, and you're not going to screw up your beer. So, in order to actually do this, what you need first of all is, of course, a finished beer. So this is done fermenting. It's ready to be transferred into a keg for possible clarification, carbonation, all those kinds of things. What you need also, because this is a pressure racking, you need a tank of CO2 in order to do that, and everything that comes along with that. What I'm going to be doing to actually get the beer out is just this stainless racking cane. That's going to be going through, as you'll see here shortly, a carboy hood. This is how you're going to get the CO2 into the carboy, as well as getting the beer out of the situation there. And then there's a couple different ways you can do this. Just find what works really well for your system. But since I'm going to want to go directly into the sanitized keg, I'm going to be using a liquid quick disconnect in order to get that in to the actual keg. I've just got some hose here through which the beer is going to be traveling. I've actually got a check valve. You don't necessarily need a check valve on this system, but this is just going to be handy for me because this is how I'm going to connect the gas line to the carboy hood. And just got this little piece of silicone. This is just going to be a way for me to connect this other hose to the racking cane. So let's get everything together here. First off, I'm just going to start to sanitize a few things here. Tube all done up. So I've got just a spray bottle of Star San here, and I've got this beautiful garbage bucket. This is just going to be something I'm spraying into because the last thing you need is to be just callously splashing Star San all over your brewery, and then you're like slipping around and causing trouble. So I'm just going to sanitize everything right now. And again, just bear in mind you want to have at least a 30-second contact time with Star San just to make sure it does everything it needs to. So it's not like I want to spray this and then immediately use it. You want to wait a little bit, but that's okay because this is going to take a minute or two to set up anyway. So I have now sanitized the inside of the beer hose. I'm going to go ahead and sanitize my liquid quick disconnect. Now I like to use these ones with the flare fittings and the swivel nuts because, well, look how easy that is to actually connect. For this, because I'm just using it for a few minutes, I'm not super concerned. I'm not going to have 30 pounds of pressure or anything going through it. Finger tight's good enough. If you're super anal, you can just get the old crescent wrench out and get that going, but this will suffice. Next, I'm just going to quickly sanitize the stainless steel racking cane on the inside, and I'll do it from both ends just because it's always more fun to do it at both ends. Now, I'm going to want to spray the entire thing, so I'm just going to get my handy little bucket out here. Just going to get a little bit more of a spray on this. Get my hand all nicely sanitized here as well. Try not to get Star San all over Ty's electrical equipment sitting right next to this freezer. Okay, so I've got this sanitized. Now what I'm going to do, you'll see here that on this beer it's got the existing carboy cap, it's got the thermal well and stuff just for the temperature controller probe and whatnot. I'm just going to rip that right off of there because, I mean, I could sit here and try to pull out that thermal well and then get this thing into there, but it's too much mucking around. So I'm just going to take this right off. Pull it out into the garbage bucket. This is probably unnecessary, but I'll just do that. Okay. So, racking cane is in there, it's good. When I go to, I only have this down just a little ways. I didn't want to have it fully extended because if that happens, I'm more than likely to, you know, kind of muck around the yeast cake or something like that. This will be good for now. As soon as I start to rack this, I'll actually sanitize this again and just kind of push it down a little bit. But that's okay for the time being. Now, I mentioned my little silicone jumper here, or connector. Gonna sanitize all that. This is just because the hose that works really nicely for the barbs on these fittings, of course, is too small to go over that. So the silicone is just a way to neatly connect these here without too much problem. Okay, so now sanitize that, and I'm just going to actually go ahead and connect this to my keg. Just make sure there's no pressure in your keg. Good. That's not how you do it. Connect that. Just make sure everything's nice and sanitary here again. Okay, now at this point, just because of the length of my line here, I'm actually just going to raise up the keg, just so I have a little bit more play here. And that bucket works beautifully for that. Perfect. Now, because I mean, if this is really tight, you're going to have issues, particularly at the end if you want to try to raise things up and whatever. And I don't want to muck around with that. So, liquid is connected. Let's get the gas going here. I'm just gonna. I know this line's already clean, but I'll just get just the tip clean here. This. Take this little super swank check valve. Sanitize the inside of that. Of course, since this is a check valve, always make sure you're going the right direction with it. Okay. And we're just going to pop that onto here. This couldn't be easier. I love it. Move that around. Okay. At this point, we're actually ready to begin the transfer. One thing to remember, of course, is you want to just pop the pressure relief valve. I just twist it and leave it open like that. That way, beer's coming in, pressure's increasing, but then it just blows out the top. So that's perfect. We're good to go. Just sanitize this a little bit more. Okay, so transfer's ready to begin. I'm just going to make sure everything's ready. We've got our extremely beautiful Micromatic regulator here on this awesome awesome aluminum tank, and we're beginning to do it here. Here we go. So right now I've got the pressure in here right around 7 pounds. We are pushing. Now, one thing I do most of the time when I'm doing this is just kind of keep a hand on the carboy hood itself. One time I think I had a little bit too much pressure going on and it kind of popped. It didn't go flying off or anything, but it did pop up, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of gas coming out the top here, and it's just a hassle. So as you can see, it's dropping, you know, at a decent little rate. So there you are. Pretty simple. I'm just going to disconnect this stuff here just so it's kind of out of the way. Of course, make sure to close up the pressure relief valve when you're done this. Yeah, at this point, this is ready to go. You can gelatinify it, you can carbonate it, whatever you're planning on doing. With this carboy, this yeast is still good to go. So I mean, either you can just toss it, you can harvest it, whatever you'd like to do. But this is just a great way to go ahead, transfer your beer from a fermentation vessel into a keg without having the potential for, or at least with a greatly reduced potential for infection, oxygen pickup, all that kind of stuff. So, for Craft Brewing, I'm Jeremy. Stay pressurized.